few nights ago I had this dream that I was sitting in this room and there were some spider webs just kind of touching me. In the room next to me there's a table full of people. They were talking about spiders. And I thought, these people, they probably need to know that there's some spiders around here. I'm feeling these spider webs touching me and they're interested in spiders. So let me tell them about this. And so I began to mention to them, hey, I think there's some spiders in here. And I looked down and there was a black widow that was just a blob, big shiny black blob about this big. And I just knew it was a black widow. I knew that if you could turn it over, you'd see a shiny red hourglass underneath it. Even though it was way too large and it was amorphous, it didn't make any sense whatsoever that this would be a black widow, but it was in my dream. And I said, hey, come in this room. There's a black widow in here. I want you to see this. They come in the room. They begin looking at this black widow. And I'm just like, I got to stay away from this. This is dangerous. This is scary. This could harm me. I'm afraid. And they're going to be afraid too. Well, one of them walks right over to this black widow and just begins petting the black widow's mouth. Right on the face, right on the teeth, right down the eyes, right down the mouth, right down the teeth, just petting it. And I am wigging out. I just cannot believe what I'm seeing. And all of a sudden, this black widow spider morphs into this puppy dog face. And now all of a sudden, this person is just petting this puppy, and the puppy is smiling and happy. And then I begin talking to these people. And I began telling them the story about when I was a kid. And it's a true story, actually, which is kind of odd to tell a true story in a dream. But when I was a kid, we had found this black widow in the yard. And I had taken a jar and a lid and taken a stick and captured it. I put the top on, put a couple tiny little holes in it, and I put it in my bedroom. That night, when I tried to fall asleep, I just couldn't sleep. I just kept thinking about that black widow. I just kept thinking about that spider lurking in that jar. Like, what if somehow the lid comes off? What if somehow there's some way of getting out of there? I just don't know about. I'm back to fear. And I'm explaining this to them about how I couldn't sleep that night and I would check. I was so afraid I would check it and check it and check it just to make sure everything was okay. And I woke up. What does that mean? Well, here's what I think. There are a couple components of this dream. One is the black widow and the fear. This is something dangerous. This is something that can do harm. I am afraid of it. Second, there's this group of people who are not afraid of what I'm afraid of. They're not afraid to confront it. They're not afraid to touch it. They're not afraid to be in close proximity to it. And so as they pet it, the black widow transforms into something harmless. The harmful seeming element transforms into something joyful, something playful, something good. And what that's telling me is that there are some things that I'm afraid of, some things that I'm fearing about what's to come, and that I need to embrace it. Rather than be afraid of it, rather than be distant from it, I need to observe those who are willing to become close to it and turn those frightening things into things that bring joy. The reason I think I told the story about the checking and the fear is because sometimes that is my go-to. When I get nervous, when I get anxious or afraid, I begin checking things. This probably goes back to having a father who had obsessive compulsive disorder and who would check things mercilessly. Lots of stories on that one. So I tend to check things. I tend to follow up and just check things, just can kind of obsess over certain details or certain things in order to cope or manage with fear. So I think that God was giving me a message, and he was saying to me, Matt, there are things that are put in front of you that on the surface to you from your perspective look dangerous. They look scary. I understand that you'd be afraid of that, but I want you to understand that they are not harmful, that you're going to need to come into closer proximity with that which you are afraid of. You're going to have to engage it, even touch it, and watch me transform it into something lovely, beautiful, playful, and good. Just trust me on this one. And you don't have to keep checking on those things. You need to let that go and watch me work. So I just share that story because maybe it's helpful to you. Maybe there's things you're afraid of or things you're hesitating to engage in because you're not quite so certain how it's going to turn out, and you would definitely not like to fail at it. Maybe this is encouragement to you. Maybe this dream is not just given for me, but is also given for some of you to let go of these things that you're so concerned about and engage them in a playful and loving way and watch and see what God does when we do. Thanks for watching. God bless you. If you haven't subscribed, I'd love for you to do that. If not, that's cool too. But we'll talk to you again soon.